I call sexual energy creation energy. I mean, it can create a baby, it can create a company, it can create a book, but it's the same force, the same thing that is powerful enough to allow us to do the most divine thing that a human can do, which is to create another human. That force can be used to channel and create anything you want.
Emily Fletcher,
a former Broadway performer who changed her life through meditation.
She's the founder of the Ziva Meditation and has taught over 50,000 people.
Written a book, started a podcast, and created Ziva Magic,
a movement that helps people use ancient wisdom and modern science to reach their goals.
The heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the head when it comes to electromagnetic field. But then if you plug in the generator and the magnet of your body and get that in on the game as well, it's just like a superpower.
From sexual energy being creative energy and vice versa, as you've dove into sacred sexuality, how have you seen it impact your creativity? Emily Fletcher. Hi. Yeah, you.
That's
Hi.
me.
That is you. Welcome to the Creative Path Podcast. Thank you for being here. Filming in Tallinn, Estonia.
Here we are.
Mind Valley University. It's such a pleasure to get to drop in with you because let's just call it what it is. We haven't had an opportunity to really drop in.
Well, we've had opportunities, we just haven't taken them.
We're
like often speaking at the same conferences and on the same stages.
Correct. But what I feel like is we transmissioned so many codes to each other on the dance floor the other day.
Yes.
And then I was like, great, this is going to be perfect because now we get a chance to drop in after our dance codes have been exchanged. So,
I think that's where I do my best code exchange is on the dance floor.
absolutely. So to start off, for people who have no idea anything about you or Ziva Meditation or any of that, can you give us the log line so that people understand who you are?
Log line of Emily Fletcher or log line of Ziva Meditation?
Both. I mean,
Okay.
Are they not kind of intertwined?
I mean, yeah,
so
I am
deeply?
kind of Ziva
Yeah.
and Ziva is kind of me, but so I was a Broadway performer for 10 years, found meditation, changed my life very dramatically, like cured my insomnia on the first day, stopped going gray, stopped getting injured, started enjoying my job again. And I thought, like, why isn't everyone doing this? It's not just the name of my podcast. It's actually the thing that inspired this career. Mm-hmm. So I left Broadway, went to India, trained for 3 years to be a teacher, and then started Ziva back in 2009, 10.
Wow.
It's been a minute.
Like 15 years now.
Yeah, 14. So maybe it was 2010.
Okay.
Started the world's first online meditation training before Headspace, before Oprah Chopra, before all of that. And then wrote a book in 2019, had a baby that same year, which I do not recommend. I mean, talk about a creative path. That's something we should maybe talk about, is like birthing a book and a baby at the same time.
Yeah.
Because there is a portal that gets opened when you're pregnant and have a baby. And it's a really intense time of life. Anyway, that was 2019 and things were going really well. Like my business quadrupled. The book really helped things go along. And then 2020 happened. I don't know if you heard, it was like a big, change on the planet that year.
Yeah, there was a whole deep fake that happened. I heard.
Well, fake or not, a lot of stuff really did change.
Yes.
Including my marital status. I had a divorce and then 3 weeks later met my best friend and the cosmic love and had a full Kundalini awakening and then moved in with Regina Thomashower, aka Mama Gina. And it felt like nature started fire hosing me with this PhD in sacred sexuality. Mm-hmm. Which is lovely, thank you, nature. Mm-hmm. But it felt like what was happening was like, hey, you know what you did for meditation? You know how you helped to make it accessible and attractive to a mainstream audience and taught tens and tens of thousands of people to meditate? Well, now we need you to do that for sacred sexuality. We need you to help make this even more potent and even more taboo medicine attractive and accessible to people who would never find it otherwise. So what I've been birthing for the past 4 years is something new. I don't know when this is going to come out. Can I make a request of when it comes out?
Yeah,
or no?
sure.
Because there's something I can't say out until it's out. But anyway, I'm birthing something called Ziva Magic.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be Ziva Meditation and Ziva Magic. And Ziva Magic is basically teaching people how to use their bodies and use their life force energy to manifest the life of their wildest dreams.
Mm-hmm. What does Ziva stand for?
It's a Sanskrit word that means bliss, and it's a Hebrew name that means one who is radiant or kind. And since bliss, radiance, and kindness are very common side effects of this style of meditation, I thought it would be a good name. It's also a feminine name, and the lineage that I come from is quite masculine. And so I thought it'd be nice to bring in some femininity.
And then if you were to describe Ziva meditation, this style of meditation, can you just give us a quick...
Yeah, so Ziva is a trifecta of mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. That is the Ziva technique, if you will. And mindfulness I would define as the art of bringing your awareness into the present moment. And what most people call meditation, I would actually call mindfulness. So anytime you're listening to a YouTube video or on a guided app or visualizing something or concentrating on your breath, I would put all of those in the category of mindfulness because your left brain is engaged and you're focusing. The style of meditation that I teach at Ziva, specifically the meditation portion, it feels more like a nap sitting up. You're giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep, and you're moving beyond the realm of thinking into the realm of pure being, which is something I really want to talk about today, because I think from that field of infinite potentiality is the place from whence creativity is born, at least for me. So in Ziva, you're accessing that field every day, twice a day, and it's based on something called Nishkam Karma Yoga, which means union attained by action hardly taken.
Union attained by action hardly taken.
Yeah, so it's like the lazy meditation. So it looks kind of like a nap sitting up. You don't have to focus. You don't have to concentrate. You don't have to sit erect with fancy fingers. It's just really deep rest that's putting you into the field, into the source.
And so you're priming yourself before you go into that. Are you from a manifesting standpoint or from
so we start with mindfulness, which is like a state change. Then we go into the meditation, which is a trait change, which is basically getting rid of all the stress from your past. By de-exciting your nervous system, you create order in your body. And when you create order in the body, the lifetime of accumulated stresses can come up and out. And it's actually the removal of the stresses that ushers us into higher states of consciousness. And from that higher states of consciousness and from that space of coherence, you become much more creative. But then from that space, we move into manifesting. And that's just the last 2 minutes, because you don't want to just pop out of meditation and open your eyes, because it can give you what I call the meditation bends, which is like headaches, irritability. When you come out too fast, it's like scuba diving, coming up too fast. So what I recommend is that my students keep their eyes closed, but use that time for manifestation. So
and how long?
Just at the end, it's 2 minutes.
Right. So how long is the
total?
The
whole technique is like 15 and change.
Okay.
So what I say is 15 minutes twice a day, and the course is 15 minutes a day for 15 days. So it's like very manageable.
And so one of the things as you were describing this, and first of all, just acknowledging what you've built and the journey you went on to get there, and kind of moving in the direction of creativity and the unique way in which you approach creativity. I noticed as you were speaking, you said, when there was like the voices saying, we need you to do this. We need you to now bring this to the masses. We asked you to do this. Who is this we that you're speaking to?
What a great question. Ooh. I think that the answer to that question is changing in real time, because historically, when I think about source or nature, like when I talk about the universe or God, I oftentimes will say nature, like capital N nature. And that feels really good to me because it feels like bigger than an entity. It's not evocative of like a white dude with a beard in the sky judging you for masturbating is wrong. You know, it just feels like
Santa Claus, I see you.
Santa Claus is like this.
God.
We could talk a lot.
White dude in the sky with a beard that's judging me for masturbating. That's Santa Claus.
Naughty or nice. You're going to get toys if you're good. Not going to get toys if you're bad. It's like some real patriarchal conditioning.
Yeah.
But I don't think is good for us.
No.
So to be honest, it's not until very, very recently that I've had a really like anthropomorphized version of God, an entity that's somewhere between the human and the divine. I've really just thought about it as like the field, the source of creative intelligence itself. However, that changed pretty recently. My ex-partner threw a ceremony for me where he initiated me as the high priestess of embodied joy. It was a birthday party, and it was kind of a joke, but it ended up being a real ceremony that radically changed my life and every single person at the birthday party. And it ended up being a bit of an Isis initiation. Isis being the Egyptian goddess of motherhood, fertility, sex magic.
Widely
And-
regarded, for those listening, widely regarded as having a temple where she trained priestesses of the Isis temple to train others and activate them in sex magic, including Mary Magdalene, who initiated Jesus Christ. So
No big deal.
just dropping that in case people are wondering.
That was some really good context. And so it wasn't until I had this relationship with Isis that I felt like like a personal relationship with the divine. Like I felt like, oh, like this is my girl. Like I can talk to her, I can invoke her, I can bring her in. I bring her in every ceremony, every podcast. Like I'm on the stage, like she's with me.
Is she here now? Did you invoke her?
I did not
here?
invoke her for this one, but I was
Okay.
going to when we switch.
Okay, got
But
it.
I'm happy to now.
No. I mean, I trust you to invoke her when she's ready.
Yeah. And so that was like a major, it felt like a stepping stone of sorts. I imagine a lot of people have this relationship with Jesus. You know, they're like, feel Jesus with them. Like you hear people talk about Jesus like it's their friend.
Well, what's funny, yeah, Jesus is my homeboy.
Yeah.
Right? Well, the thing is with Jesus, so I have a pretty deep connection with Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and both of them have shown up at various stages. But what I admittedly am maybe bad at, or just for whatever reason it hasn't clicked for me, is I don't develop a relationship and nurture it so much. I'll have really profound moments where the same spirits will show up to support me, like Jesus. And I know some people, though, have like a photo of Jesus on their altar, and there's a constant communication. And as I'm speaking it, I can feel like I probably should. Like, you know, you say that thing and you go, oh, this is that moment of awareness of going, got it. So I'm having that right now in this moment. And simultaneously, I also recognize how we do anything, how we do everything. And I'm this way with my human friends. I'm this way with my
You
human
don't
friends.
cultivate the relationship.
It's like I travel full time nomadically, right? So for 7 years now, I have so many friends in Los Angeles, but I go back to Los Angeles maybe 2 or 3 times a year. So when I'm there, meet up with everyone, say hi, whatever. When I'm gone, let's say I'm gone for 6 months, there might be 2 or 3 or 4 people that I actually get on a call with over the course of that 6 months. The rest of them, maybe there's a text message. I really try hard to keep a line of communication open, but not cultivating like a deep relationship. I find it hard to do without the in-person.
Yeah.
And so when you say that's a newer thing.
Well, so Isis was like the stepping stone, meaning that I had then like one kind of personal relationship with the divine. And then as of late, I'm very fresh into a breakup. I'm a couple weeks into a breakup. And really it's the first time I've been single in like 14 years. And so I'm realizing that just even in these past few weeks, my relationship with the divine is getting big and loud. And I'm actually feeling like a team of guides. And they are with me and they're talking to me and I am talking to them in a way that I have not when there's a human in the room. Oh, what do you think? Hey, what do you think about this? Like, I'm very collaborative when I create. I like to create with committee. I like to create out loud. I like to talk things through. For me, it's like the best idea wins. And also my channel opens often when I'm speaking. And so if there's a human in the room, I would sometimes defer to them or collaborate with them. And now that there's no human in the room, I'm conferring with the unseen team. And that's been really, really beautiful. And I think maybe like the point of this chapter for me.
And that's a newer thing. It's
Like
just
literally
a couple of weeks.
a few weeks.
Wow. Okay. And catalyzed by a separation.
Catalyzed by, I think, the spaciousness that the separation has given, and also just the heartbreak and anguish. You know, when you're in such devastation and pain, you know, you're like looking for relief, support, help. I'm also in like, it's not just the breakup. I'm in a massive caterpillar goo moment. Like everything in my life is transitioning. A move, I'm leaving the city, I'm leaving my roommate, I'm leaving my relationship, my son is sick. Like it's a lot of change. And so it's like, in some quest for stability or anything to be tethered, I'm asking for a lot of support.
And do you, during times like this, actively utilize creativity? Because as a poet, I'm often in these absolute crumbling cocoon goo moments, finding myself needing to get back into poetry writing. So I shared with you a little bit about what I've been going through recently, which I'm not going to tell you guys.
The suspense, the intrigue.
But as I've been navigating that, I haven't been writing poetry over the last couple months so much because I've been so energetically focused on business and launching my new incubator, The Artistic Entrepreneur, and just poetry's taken a back seat. And whenever that happens, I feel myself get rusty. So when I go back to write a poem, I sit there and I go, I don't know how to do this.
I'm a sham. I'll never write a poem again.
All of my best work is behind me. I'm dried up.
So convincing.
I've gone through my artistic menopause. I'm just like, there's nothing else to birth through me, right?
And just want to just pause there, just on the menopause front. Like, I think we speak societally so negatively about menopause, and I really want to reframe this conversation that it is like another initiation, that it is a transition into this new realm of liberation, and oftentimes sexuality, and oftentimes like a layer of like deeper connection with the divine and much more turn on. And
crone wisdom and all the things. Yeah. I'm not speaking about it negatively.
I know.
I mean, literally not able to birth anymore.
Yeah.
In that way. And so I've been forcing myself, so to speak. I've been coming back to the poems. I've been sitting down and going, I want to turn what I'm feeling back into poetry. And like, I got to get those wheels turning again. So I'm sharing this because there are people who've never gotten those wheels turning that are like, oh, I'm not a poet or I'm not whatever. No, even for me, it's getting it going again.
Yeah.
And the catalyst a lot of times that takes me out of where I was back into my art and creativity is depth of pain and heartbreak. And I know it doesn't have to be that way, but
what doesn't have to be that way?
That's not I don't need pain to create, right? That used to be an old belief that the best art comes from such deep pain, and that is just going to call in more pain if that's really what you want. And so for me, I realized that I just truly believe creativity is a tool and a modality for processing our depth of human experience. And so when I'm going through something, I find my way back and I try and do it intentionally. And I'm curious if you have that relationship to creativity. How in a time like this do you relate to creativity and creative energy during this time?
Mm-hmm. For me, it shows up in my manifesting practice. I would say that manifesting for me is probably my most consistent and creative act, that it's actually the creation and the sculpting of my life. And so in these times of destruction, in these times of letting go, the thing that brings me back is when I start to really put my attention on what would I love? How would I love to feel? What do I want? Where do I want to live? What do I want my relationship to look like? And I have a practice that every morning before 10 a.m., and usually it's first thing, I write down my day. I call it daydreaming, and I write it down in past tense. So the interview went amazing with Adam. We dropped even deeper, like Source used us as a vessel. The party was so fun tonight. I was on fire. I made so many new friends, deepened with my friends, and I was asleep by 2 a.m., which usually would be earlier than that, but tonight's going to be a late one. And so usually which is creation, right? Like I'm creating what I want my day to look like. I'm creating what I want my life to feel like. And oftentimes that will take me out of the death spiral. That will take me out of the like, oh no, I don't have a place to live. Oh no, my heart is breaking because of this. So it's just this simple act of like, what would I love? And then writing that down. And then usually what I teach my students and what we do in our mastermind is that before you go to bed, I buddy people up and you have like a manifesting partner. And then you report back of like, yes, no, on the way, even better, happening tomorrow. So you like have this daily, you're basically training the recency bias and what's the other bias?
Cognitive? Yeah,
it's like when you learn something and then you see it everywhere. And then confirmation bias. So recency bias and confirmation bias, you're using those, what I think they can be hindrances in your life. You're using those to help you create because you're changing the lens through which you're seeing your life, right? It's basically if you report back every night, you're like, oh, all these magical things did happen. But so that's one way that I create. I'd say the other way is through teaching. Like teaching for me is a very creative act. It's sort of like improvisational. And it's when I feel the most in flow and the most in like channel. And oftentimes teaching, if I'm in a funk, like I'm like, oh, I haven't taught in a while. Like the channel's closed. I got to open it up again.
I feel that way about speaking on stage as a performer. I mean, you were a Broadway performer, right? So I don't know if you know this. I have an acting background. So in Los Angeles, I was an actor, writer, director, producer.
Cool.
Yeah. And so professional theater and different things. And there's an aspect of my soul that comes alive on stage that if I go too long without an in-person event, I can feel it. I feel as if there's a part of me that's shriveling up and dying.
Whoa, thanks for naming that.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's also like why I keep speaking at all these conferences. You know, it's like, what am I doing? Like I have a 6-year-old son. Like why am I flying across the world and doing this? And I think it's because I feel so alive.
And so do you have anything that you do creatively that's not attached to your business or your
I have one thing.
What is it?
My son, he's a little bit out of the phase right now, but for months and months, he would commission one Pokemon watercolor a day. And so I would paint one Pokemon watercolor a day. Now I could give 2 shits about Pokemon, and I think because of that, I was very good at it. Like I have no identity or ego attached to watercoloring. I don't care about Pokemon at all. And every single day for months and months, I painted one, and they ended up being really good. Like by the end, I was like, "Whoa! I think I should find get on Etsy and sell these things."
Oh, they're legit. They're legit, like Etsy worthy watercolor Pokemon paintings.
I mean, some of them, like if it was like a limited edition.
Did you know that you had a painting watercolor gift? Or was this
I know that I enjoy watercolor. I know that I like moving the paint. I like the way that the paint like dries into the paper. I like playing with the opacity and the texture. Like for me, it's just like moving the paint around the paper and the absorption and what it looks like wet versus what it looks like dry. So it really is the first time I feel like I've had a hobby, you know, something that's just totally not attached to my work.
And so is there a difference in how you hold your creating your day creativity or your teaching creativity versus the painting creativity?
Yeah, it feels very different texture-wise. It's like one feels like I'm off work. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this for fun. And I crave it. I'm like, buddy, do you want to sit down and meditate? And also, my son will sit in my lap while I'm painting, which is unusual. 6-year-old boys have like a lot of energy. They're bouncing off the walls. They're not really like cuddly, at least my son. And so him sitting with me and painting is really, really sweet. But yeah, I crave it. It feels like off time, like the way you're like, oh, I don't really watch TV, but the way I feel like people feel about watching TV, I'm just going to sit down and have a glass of wine and watch TV when you're like off. That's how I feel about painting. And when I'm creating with work, there's a bit of an existential kink around procrastination. Like I get off on the pressure and the time. Like I've never written a talk like before the day before, and often it's the day of, which that feels like something interesting to talk about when we get there. Of like,
You should have seen me with this Mind Valley talk. Oh my goodness.
what was it late? Was it last minute or no?
Yeah, because they wanted slides a month in advance. And I actually took that seriously, and I thought, okay. And then I realized I don't use slides. Normally,
Been there.
I actually just don't use slides.
Yeah.
Because, for example, I have a live event called Poetry and Possibility. And how that works is I try and memorize as many poems as I possibly can and show up on stage and go. And so at every event, I know at some point I'll get people writing and they'll get to share. But outside of that, I have no idea which poems I'm going to do. I have no idea the order of them. I have no idea which direction it's going to go. But the more poems I have memorized, the more places we could go, right?
Yeah.
And so that has been it also comes from acting. So when I first started acting, I was in the school of the Meisner and Strasberg and Stella Adler and these famous acting coaches that a lot of the training was very, you break down. I used to break down scene line by line. What is my intention with this line? What would I be feeling in the silence between the lines? Like all of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the final step is now you let it all go. And then I had an acting teacher who basically believed that the less that you have prepared, more or less, the less that you prepared, if you know how to show up fully present in the moment, there's a magic to the fact that it's never happened before that is electric. Captivating. And so I trained in that style for a couple of years. And
Who was that teacher?
His name was Steve Easton.
Okay.
And what that became was a spiritual experience for me. It became about me showing up, being willing to fail as like Adam, but then me showing up as a character just fully raw to what you are going to say in the moment. And because I haven't really planned or rehearsed it very much at all from an emotional standpoint, just to trust that my body will respond in the way that will be captivating. Yeah. And it was just like a real spiritual experience to switch into that. And so I brought that into kind of my performance and talks on stage of the fact that I haven't written out a script means that what I say here is going to be said for the very first time. It's going to be
maybe the
unique.
last.
Yeah, and maybe never again. And so there's a freshness to that. And so I found myself in conflict because you and I both were speaking on the main stage here at Mind Valley University, which is, I don't know, 400 or 500 people fit in this space, a big stage. And
often streamed out to millions.
And streamed out to all these people. And so the visual component of having some slides on those big screens behind you is very helpful to keep people engaged when the audience is that big. And so I went, okay, I'm going to try and create slides, but that meant that I needed to have it figured out. I had to have structure in advance. So it created a lot of resistance in me in this whole thing. So I share that because I want to know, you said that there's like an off that happens when you're painting. Mm-hmm. What's turning off?
If I have an addiction, it's work.
Mm-hmm.
I work a lot. And
what does that look like? Take us through what you consider to be work. When you say work a lot, if someone were to have a camera on you, what does it look like for you to be working?
Yeah, so I'd say about 15% of my life is actually spent teaching, and 85% is running a company. Like I have 10 employees. I run an online information business. I run an online learning center. And you're in the CEO seat. Mm-hmm. And have you designed it in a way? So I have 8 employees and sit in the CEO seat, and I've been wanting to move out of that seat. Amen. Me too. I'm actively calling in. Like, it doesn't have to be the CEO, but I want like an activator, amplifier, right hand. I want someone to hold the masculine container. I want an entrepreneur so that I can be more in my artist, more in my channel, more in my gift, more in my feminine. Mm-hmm. I'm actively calling that in. So if anyone's listening and you want to come on to Ziva, water's warm. It's really fun. And so when you say you switch off, is it the masculine side? Like, what is switching off when you go paint? It's just I'm fully present. There's nothing to accomplish. There's nothing to do. There's no deadlines. It doesn't matter if I finish. It's just about being so present with whatever happens. And almost everything else that I do in my life is like, oh, there's a deadline or a purpose or there's a time that we're launching this course or, someone's review needs to happen or this budget or, it's just the norm. I mean, it's all self-induced. It's my company. I can change it if I want. But as you know, with 10 employees, you're like, well, now like I have to cover all of their salaries and I'm the face of it and it's my teaching and I'm the only teacher. And so I've created a world where it's like I'm the bottleneck. Like I'm the bottleneck on creativity. I'm the bottleneck on decisions. And so I can feel, my friend Jerry said that every successful company has 3 personas: an artist, an entrepreneur, and a leader. And the way to know which one you are is to imagine that your company is going to get bought or sold. And the leader will say, what about the people? The artist will say, what about the product? And the entrepreneur will say, how much? And I feel like I've been sitting in the entrepreneur seat and the artist seat, and I'm really proud of what I've created. You know, Ziva has grown year over year for 13 years. We've been profitable for over 3 years. We're a multi-7-figure business, which is very unusual for female entrepreneurs, certainly in the meditation space. So I'm very proud of what I've done, but I can feel myself, and I want to delete this story, but the old story is like, I feel like myself, I've maxed my capacity of being the artist and the entrepreneur simultaneously. But I don't know that that's true. I think I could either increase my capacity, or I could bring on someone to play the entrepreneur role so that I can play the artist role better, which is something that I'm desiring anyway, is just to be in more connection with the unseen, with my guides, and let them work through me, and not be as much of like, oh, I need to do these quarterly reviews with my employees, or like, here we have to worry about the return on ad spend. And, you know, I'm a lot in the like nitty gritty of the details of the business, which doesn't feel like it's my highest service to the planet.
Well, it's so funny because the Artistic Entrepreneur Incubator and the talk that I gave at Mind Valley, the entire concept is how to create your most fulfilling and prosperous life and business by merging your inner artist and inner entrepreneur. Because I see the inner artist as your inner feminine and inner entrepreneur as your inner masculine.
Yeah.
And there's a polarity between the two. So there's a magnetism and a push-pull that's happening between them. And what you said was really interesting, which is that you felt as though you maxed out your ability to be in both.
At this state of consciousness. So I am open, and I am currently going through like a massive upgrade. So it is possible that my capacity increases, then I can do both better. But like right now, I feel like I'm being stretched in too many directions, and I'm craving more masculine. Like I want to be held in my relationship. I want to be held in my work so that I can soften and be more in my channel. It's just like where I want to spend more of my time. And I believe that that's true. Like I'm not going to just hand over the reins to someone totally. Like I will still be the visionary, and I will still ultimately be my company. I don't want to just like chillax. But it feels important to me I've been so in my masculine for so long. And I think just to be a successful entrepreneur, there just is a masculine element to that. Yeah. And I've done it, and I've been doing it for 13 years. And now I want to just check out what it feels like to be more in my feminine.
And so how do you, because there are people listening to this right now that might be in the same position where they feel I get a lot of artists who look up to me and reject and push away the entrepreneurial side because it can feel very limiting. It can feel very, that somehow it takes away the purity of the art or the ability to just be in that. How do you, because to build the business that you've built, you spoke to how you like your channel opens when you're speaking. You also talked about how you collaborate and co-create. So when you built this, was it how did it drop in as one idea and it was clear? Has it evolved massively over time? Like, take us through the creation of this business.
Yeah, originally it felt like it would be a cute side gig. I was like, oh, this is something I'll do like when I'm not acting, when I'm in between shows. Because I was on Broadway for 10 years. Wow. I studied acting. I've been acting, singing, dancing since I was 8 years old. So I'd say originally I am an artist, a performer, a singer, a dancer, an actress. That's what I identified with since I was like 7 or something. And was very successful at it. You know, from show to show to show for 10 years. Wow. And so then I found meditation. It was the first thing I found that I loved as much as singing and dancing and acting. And then when I first started, it was a side gig. And my agents would be like, hey, Emily, can you bring us some more headshots and resumes? This is back when they were printed, when they were actually paper. Yeah. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And then I just wouldn't do it. I would not bring them headshots and resumes, but I would have taught 400 people to meditate. And a month would go by, and like I'd teach another 400 people to meditate, and I wouldn't have brought them any headshots and resumes. They're like, hey, we're trying to send you out for auditions, but we don't have, like, you gotta. And then there was this one week where I was in final callbacks to play Velma in Chicago, the musical on Broadway. I was opening up the East Coast division of the #1 acting school in LA, which, by the way, I used to be an acting teacher, which I want to circle back to that because I very much resonate with
I did
what you
some
said.
acting coaching, actually.
So fun.
Yeah.
So I was like in final callbacks for Velma, I was opening up the East Coast division of the #1 acting school in LA, and I was birthing the world's first online meditation training all in the same week. And I was like, you know what? Nobody wins here. Like, I cannot do all three of these things well. Like, each one of them would be a full-time job. Like, to book a leading role on Broadway requires all of you. To open up an acting school, to teach the teachers, to get the studio, to like get the magnetism to draw the students, like that takes all of you. And then also there was, and I know this is hard for people to understand, but meditation was still weird. Online courses were not a thing. There was not like Kajabi and Thinkific where you can just plug your videos in. Like, I literally had to build this shit from scratch. I had to like hire engineers and code, and I'm a BFA in musical theater trying to figure out how to build the world's first online meditation training and edit the videos and write the emails. And like, you know, it was all, and I did it in like 2 months or something absurd. Like, I think one of the best attributes, one of the best gifts that an entrepreneur has is their naivete. You know, when you're starting, is you have no idea how hard it's going to be. So I was like arrogant in how much I thought I could accomplish. And that naivete and arrogance was my biggest gift, because if I had any idea how much it would have taken, I never would have started.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So anyway, I just all three of those things, like that's when I called my agents and I was like, hey, I love you guys, but I'm going to stop acting. And I just was teaching meditation and teaching acting. And then finally, I think in 2015 is when I went full-time teaching meditation. And then when I went all in on Ziva, it really grew. But yes, it's evolved many times. In the beginning, I was just teaching in person. Then the online business really started to grow. And so then that became the primary part of the business.
So it was organic. It wasn't, you didn't have a vision for what it would become.
I just knew that I had found this tool that changed my life so profoundly that I wanted to share it with others.
So where do you, sort of for people listening to this who have a vision, your approach feels more, organic is the word, of just, there's this thing that I love that helped me a lot that I want to share with people.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to start doing that. And then, oh, that's working. So how do I scale that?
Yeah.
Basically. And there are other people who sit and go, okay, I have this vision for this business. Could be this and this and this. And when it comes to manifestation, where's the balance between vision and then also just being in the organic nature unfolding?
It's such a good question. And I feel like it comes back to that polarity of masculine and feminine. But I will say that I personally, and as you're saying this, I'm realizing it in real time, I personally have had much more success when it comes organic. When it's like, oh, here's this thing that I'm passionate about. It's really helped me. I want to get it to the world. I have so much more ease and effortless success when I come from that place. And I'd say in the past few years, as the entrepreneurship has become the artistry, you know, as so much of my time and mental capacity is spent on building and running the company, that like, oh, maybe I should have a business plan, and maybe I should make the vision, and maybe I should try and reach this $10 million goal. And when I start to do things from that place, I find less ease, less flow, and less abundance for me personally.
What's interesting about this is I ran a brand building program at the start of the year. It was wonderful, 6-figure launch, over 115 people in the program, and we ran it, but it was an interesting price point. It was like $1,300 at the time. And with that price point and that amount of people, it was enough people where I couldn't be personal. I didn't know everyone in it, like really what was going on with each person individually. And at the same time, it wasn't a high enough price point to get really in depth with people. And that caused me to feel disconnected. And I realized, okay, for me personally, it either needs to be a DIY course and at a low price point and do it yourself there, or it gets to be a higher price point where I actually know the people in there. And so that led me into a whole existential, because we were just going to launch it again. And my team's going, we had success in the first launch. Let's just improve the product and do it again. And I said, no, I don't want it. I don't want to, because I was missing that thing that made me super excited. And so during this moment of, okay, well, what do I do if I'm not going to launch this program again? Well, when have I had the most success? That was a question. I was like, what has been most successful for me? And what is the pattern I can see that has led to things that have been most successful? And what I realized was all of the most magical skyrocket moments of my career, whether it's financially or when my poem went viral or any of these sorts of things, happened because I was focusing on my art. And that was a really big moment for me because, for example, in the last 12 months, social media we probably doubled social media in the last 12 months in terms of Instagram following. How did that happen? That happened because I decided to make a spoken word poetry album, which you don't make any money off of, right? It was my second album. It's called The Journey Back to You. And that's a magical story of how it came to be. But I made that album just to make the album as good as I could. And then we started taking tracks from the album and making mashups with movies and different things. And those pieces of content went crazy on Instagram. And suddenly the following just grew. But I didn't even think about sharing it on Instagram when I was making it. And similarly, poem going viral, I was touring my show internationally at the time, a one-man poetry show, losing money because I had no following. And yet I just needed to do that. And as a result, I was getting the reps in. And then when I was randomly pulled on stage at this event in front of 1,500 people, I had the poem already memorized. I'd been practicing it on tour, and I was ready, and I delivered something that would later go viral and change everything. But again, I was all in on creating art. I was creating art at the time. And that's been a really interesting thing because I don't have a major artistic project right now. I've been talking about my book, but I don't have one. And I've started to really sit in the contemplation that I lose my magic if I don't have a big art project that I'm working with. And so my entrepreneurial stuff right now, I'm seeing it through the mindset of I need my whole team to understand that I need to take on this art project, my book. And the bandwidth that I have left gets to go into the entrepreneurial stuff, but that's the leftover bandwidth. It's not the other way around because all of the magic. And what's funny is all the entrepreneurs on my team don't understand it necessarily. And so I'm just curious, when you hear that, what is your secret sauce? Like mine's the art project. Is there something that you resonate with around this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it resonates. It's very true because it's like when you're focused on the art, that's God coming through. Right? That's you plugging into source. And that's what we're all hungry for, is like, bring me home. Like when we date someone, we want someone who's like going to make you remember your divinity. When you see art, you want to see art that's like plugging you into God. Like for me, Glennon Doyle, I've read the book Untamed 10 times. I love that woman's flavor of God. Like I love the way that God comes through her. Can't listen to her podcast for 5 minutes. Like no offense, but like just not that interested in the human, but like her channel, I'm addicted to it. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if the channel's open, like that's what we're all doing, ultimately walking each other home, reminding each other that we are God pretending to be human. Mm-hmm. And so it would make sense that when you're in that's when you're the most magnetic. That's when there's the most success. Similarly, I launched a mastermind. And the whole point of it was like, hey, I'm really getting into sacred sexuality. I'm really into this idea that you can use your sexual energy to manifest and create your life. I want to bring people with me on this ride. My course, Ziva Online, is $399, and I've built this whole business on a $399 product that I advertise as like, hey, you only need to take this one meditation course. Like, this is it. This is all you need to be self-sufficient for life, which is true and amazing and valuable for the people, and a terrible business model, right? Because there's no lifetime value. There's no recurring costs. It's just like $399 and you're good.
Yeah.
So then I'm just in this thing of like finding new customers. Anyway, so I went from a $399 product to I launched a $25,000 mastermind.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, this is a big jump. This is a big price point. We had 2 months to sell it. It sold out in 2 weeks. People calling my EA, like yelling at my EA, you told me we were going to save the spot. I was moving the money. Like people were like mad that they couldn't get in. Like that level of hunger.
How many spots?
25.
Got it.
So, but the thing that was so exciting was like, I wasn't doing that for money. I was just like, this is the thing I'm excited about and I want to bring people with me. And it was so amazing. Same with what's happening with Ziva Magic right now. So this is the thing I've been like sculpting and birthing and refining over the past 3 years. Because there was certainly a lot of imposter syndrome. Because I'm like, who am I? I don't have a Tantra certification. I'm not a Kundalini teacher. You know, I have like deep pedigree with meditation and so much training there, but I don't have the same with Tantra or Kundalini. And it was Aubrey Marcus that was like, you know, at what point are you going to accept your own mastery, Emily? Like at what point are you going to realize that this is you calibrating a couple clicks on the dial? You're not starting from scratch. That I could like take my mastery in meditation and translate it into this thing, which is true. So anyway, I've spent the past 3 years like really crafting this modality. Like what is Ziva Magic? And the formula is visualize, alchemize, magnetize. But we shot an online course about like a few months ago, and the actual shooting of the course was the most inspired, supported, creative, channeled thing I have ever done. And it took all of me. Like I could have my masculine and my feminine, my artist and my entrepreneur, because I was writing because as you know, I don't write things ahead of time. So I'm literally writing the script, shooting it, producing the shoot, sourcing the music, because you can't use licensed music in an online course. So I had to get like either music from friends or composers writing the music in real time. I had 15 people fly in from all around the world on their own dime to be here on this farm to like shoot the course with me. They just wanted to be a part of the birthing. And so we thought it was going to be like me teaching to camera, sort of like with backup dancers, kind of like 80s aerobics video style. But what ended up happening is we ended up basically facilitating a retreat. And so the profundity of the healing and magic that happens on these retreats, we shot like a documentary. And I was teaching direct to camera. And we ended up shooting a music video. And so it's this like, I think we're going to change the game with online courses actually, because you could just feel the magnetism of the magic. And I was in such flow and creating in exactly the way that I want to create, which is in real time and collaboratively. And it was about the healing. That the thing that emerged was so much bigger and so much more beautiful that we had an artist, Alex Ruiz, came and he was sketching and painting during the ceremonies. Like we're shooting it. He's sketching and painting. And he said he made the most profound art of his entire career. He ended up painting our bodies for the music video part of it. And then Everett, who shot the course, he said he made the most profound art of his entire career. And both of these are like prolific, amazing artists in totally different fields. And them coming together just heightened the artistry of the whole thing. And I'm as you can tell, I'm so excited to get this out into the world because I know how healing the modalities are. And so for me, like my creative energy has really been going into birthing Ziva Magic, like first birthing the modality and now birthing like the method, like the vehicle through which it will be transmitted to the world. And from that place, I know that the business will be supported, but to be honest, in the past few years, it's been tricky because so much of my creativity has been going into Ziva Magic that I've not been pouring my juice into Ziva Meditation. And so it's been like running on old stuff or other people have been managing it. So I haven't been pouring my creative energy into it.
And what do you see? Does it impact the bottom line? Like what happens? Because generally, for example, if I have someone else or AI or someone else try and write like in my newsletter, right? It just suffers.
Yeah, it's just not your transmission.
There's an energetic signature to you that is Ziva.
Yeah.
And so if your signature and your life force energy is not fresh in there, it's probably felt in some way. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So like sales went down on Ziva Online, and also like even this podcast, like here I am talking about Ziva Magic and the sacred sexuality. I'm not talking about meditation, which I am equally as passionate about, but in 1 hour, like how much are you going to talk about, you know?
So where do you balance that? Because I think there's a lot of people right now that can resonate with wanting to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And right now it's robust, but you're talking about two, Ziva Meditation and Ziva Magic. And just talking about the two, you're speaking to how putting your attention on one takes away some from the other, and it's not getting nurtured in the same way. And I want to know how you relate to all the ideas and picking one or two. And also, do you think there's a way to do it where all of it can expand and grow, or is it literally just a limited amount and you have to pick?
I don't think so. I think if I had done a better job hiring, if I had the support, like if I really had like all like the artist, the entrepreneur, and the leader in place, I think that the Ziva Meditation could have been and would be growing even without me, because I have 13 years of content that can be used and repurposed. And so I think there is a world where that like sort of engine could have been running with less of me while I was birthing this new thing. It doesn't mean I'm gone totally. But as you were talking about the videos, I was like, oh, you know what? I should just be taking like my best work, like my best teachings, and combining that with like, here's how you enroll in Ziva Online, versus like me direct to camera talking about the scientific benefits of meditation. Like it feels like selling versus me talking about or teaching the magic and then just being like, here it is, here's how you enroll, is different than like, hey, come join this course. So I'm realizing like I'm done. Like I feel like I'm tiring of being in like selling mode.
Inside my incubator, the second step, which there's questions at the end that relate to this, but is to develop a 100% certainty offer. And when you have 100% certainty in your offer, it's just about knowing you need to pair it with the right person, and it becomes matchmaking as opposed to convincing. And because I'm so tired of the selling as well, and the idea that I have a business partner who is the entrepreneur, and he is constantly thinking about, okay, but this needs to, like the title of the webinar needs to be about a pain point, and the title, like it's that kind of thing. And I want it to be an artistic title that is somewhat abstract. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's like that kind of back and forth, push pull between us. And I said on a call just yesterday, I said, I think across the board, all of us in the online space are seeing that what used to work is not working anymore. Something's shifting. And I think it's become so saturated that there's a part of me that thinks people unconsciously are craving something different and innovative and whatever. So these proven tactics that used to work, I don't think are going to be that. I think we are in the shift, as we also feel a major shift of consciousness on this planet right now. What we see happening politically with our economic systems, our global politics, like there's a massive amount of shifting that's happening. And I think how we quote unquote sell is also going to shift a lot.
Also, as AI is making everyone's content for them and AI avatars, and there's going to be, I mean, we think it's saturated now. It's like, wait until your team can make AI everything for you that doesn't even take your time. You know, like it's about to get infinitely more saturated and infinitely better at the marketing tactics and the NLP tactics and the sales tactics. And so you're right. It's like either I assume that that same human connection for like, bring me to God, take me to God. I'm attracted to your channel. I want to be reminded that I am divinity masking as like humanity, masquerading as humanity. I think that the desire for that will get more when we're drowning in a sea of artificial intelligence, that like the craving and the yearning for the like real deep divine authentic connection will get stronger.
And so from a sexual energy being creative energy and vice versa, how, as you've dove into sacred sexuality, how have you seen it impact your creativity?
Well, the reflections that I get back from people are like, Emily, you seem so much more real now. You seem so much more raw. you seem so much more wild. Like just, I think it's changed my essence. Like me getting more in my body, a reclamation of my body, a reclamation of my pleasure has allowed me to like take off a lot of the masks of perfectionism and even performative nature. You know, I am a performer and that is who I am. That's real. But there was a performing out of perfectionism. And I am a recovering and active people pleaser. And so there's a bit of, I mean, it's a gift and a curse, you know, there's light and dark to it. Like I know what people need to hear and I can speak to it, but that out of balance is not authentic because I'm speaking for them, not for myself, or not serving the channel, but serving them, or editing myself based on what I think that they can or want to hear. So I think a lot of that has fallen away through the reclamation of the sexual energy because it is so taboo, because it is so shamed, because it is so conditioned. The bravery that it takes to reclaim that for yourself gives you a level of bravery in every other creative arena as well. Where you're like, oh, all of the stories that I had that I thought were true, that this is bad, this is a sin, this is wrong, this is to be hidden, this is not to be talked about. It's like if you can be brave enough to name it, to claim it, and to talk about it, it becomes easier to share the other vulnerable, scary parts. That's to me the point of Tantra. My favorite definition of Tantra is finding God where you thought it was not. The Tantra is finding God where you thought it was not. And so when you go into the places that are so sublimated, that is when the medicine can be the strongest because what there is to reclaim is bigger and more powerful. So there's that part, but then also like specifically with Ziva Magic, like what we're doing is that one, I help people get clear on what it is that they want, right? Because a lot of people just don't even know. Like, I want to manifest, but I don't know what I want. I feel divorced from my desire. So I help people to visualize the thing. And then the second step is alchemy. And we have this emotional alchemy process where I'm having people move their rage and move their sorrow, which is like dancing it, singing it, moving it, which is a creative act. And I believe that energy either creates or it destroys. So similar to how you said when you're stuck, you need to write. And it is that pain that propels you into the creativity because it's a necessity, right? If you stay in the spiral, it would destroy you. But when you start to infuse the creative energy, it changes the direction and the trajectory. So the emotional alchemy is giving people the tools to actually feel their feelings, but not only feel them, but to move them and express them, which again, we've been conditioned to not do. Shh, don't cry. Shh, don't cry. You're fine. Are you okay? You're okay. You're okay. Like those feelings have been shoved down since infancy. And so in that reclamation as well, like I am angry and I am going to punch this pillow. I am going to rage, or I am sad and I'm going to let myself cry and I'm going to do it with music. There can be like the creativity is the alchemical force, but what's magical is that you find a little bit of ecstasy in the expression of the rage. You find a little bit of bliss in the expression of the sadness. And then we start to fan that flame, right? So it's like the alchemy clears the channel for the magnetism to tap into, I call sexual energy creation energy. Because they really, I mean, it can create a baby, it can create a company, it can create a book, but it's the same force, the same thing that is powerful enough to allow us to do the most divine thing that a human can do, which is to create another human. That force can be used to channel and create anything you want. And so when you tap into this, when you're putting your attention on your dream and bringing yourself into these heightened, ecstatic, pleasurable states, you really start to feel, you start to wake up and turn up the dial of your own divinity, and you're just using this creative force and directing it to whatever you desire. And I've actually felt that like in those states, when I'm thinking about my dream, it's like it doesn't even matter if the thing happens anymore because it already feels so good. It creates this sense of detachment, which I think is a key ingredient in manifestation or creating anything, is you can't believe that the thing is going to make you or break you. Right? Because when those stakes are so high, it shuts down the channel, it shuts down the creative flow. So part of the game here and why it feels like magic is that you're flooding your brain and body not only with dopamine and serotonin, which happens in meditation, but also oxytocin, norepinephrine, adrenaline. So it's like pouring gasoline on that fire of feeling good. And not only do you have this sense of fulfillment, detachment, I already have everything I need. That is there, that is the base. And then it's being supercharged with this eros, which is the magnetic force on the planet. So you're actually increasing your electromagnetic field for whatever it is that you want to create.
And so do you have a intentional process by which you say, okay, I need more creation energy. I need more creative. My company needs it. My art needs it. My teaching needs it. Do you have an intentional process by which you get into your most creative state?
Yes. So one is meditation, like every day, twice a day, non-negotiable. Like if I don't do it, I feel myself, I get dumb, I get stressed, my insomnia comes back. Like it's wild what happens when I don't practice. I'm still 16 years in and I'm like very much non-negotiable every day, twice a day. That might change, but that's my foundation. And then dance for me. So the alchemized portion of Ziva Magic is dance. And it depends on where I am. Like if I have rage, I'll move the rage. If I have sadness, I'll move the sorrow. If I'm just sort of neutral, I will just dance and I'll just get my body moving. But then I usually end with like a turn on song. Like I'll turn on sexy music and I'll turn my body on. Because I mean, think about it. Like when you're turned on, it's not like, yes, there can be a sexual component to it, but it's waking up every cell in your body. Your heart, the electromagnetic field of your heart is 5,000 times more powerful than that of your head. And so the whole point here is like, I try to get to my head, my heart, and my hoo-ha all into coherence with each other and all pointed towards the thing that I am created. Because your hoo-ha, which by the way, everyone has one, male, female, trans, non-binary, and I mean both the anatomy and the energy center around it. So think about it. The heart is 5,000 times more powerful than the head when it comes to electromagnetic field. But then if you plug in the generator and the magnet of your body and get that in on the game as well, it's just like a superpower. And I really believe that if we're going to solve the most pressing challenges that we are facing as a species right now, we are going to need our most creative force online in order to do that. You know, like if we followed the predictive analytics and the linear path of where the planet is going right now, it does not look good. We have 60 years of arable soil. 60. My son will be 66 years old. No more food. We have more plastic in the oceans than fish by 2050. You know, like it does not look good for humans. Like we're talking less than 100 years of human existence on this planet if we follow the linear timeline. Linear timeline is not going to work out too well for us. So it's like we have to create a new paradigm. It's like we have to use magic right now. We have to timeline jump if we do want the species to not only thrive, but flourish. And so that's why I'm interested in like bringing these modalities online, is because of the creativity, and not just for our own personal problems, but like how do we collectively start to change our state of consciousness to come up with more creative solutions to the big existential threats that we are facing right now.
Well said. Really well said. And to land the plane a bit here, I have 5 questions for you that are somewhat rapid fire. Okay. They don't have to be one sentence or anything, but these are based off of the 5 modules that I found to be the way in which I've been able to create my dream life, more or less, and are the modules within the incubator program. And so module 1 is about identifying your core conflict. So what I believe is that we have this core karmic conflict inside of us, and we have several, but they become the lens that we take as the resistance curriculum as we build the lives we want, relationships we want, businesses that we want. It was what birthed the inner artist, inner entrepreneur merging for me, because that has been a major conflict in my life. And I'm curious, for you, is there a core conflict? When I say that, there's a core conflict that you see show up at every stage of evolution for you as you've built what you've built?
Yeah, it feels like surrender and control. Like, to what degree do I surrender and to what degree do I control? So it feels like a little bit of masculine, feminine. And I would say like the unhealthy feminine and the unhealthy masculine. I come from a lineage of women who are all the breadwinners, the primary caretakers, you know, so it's like, that's in my blood, you know, and that's what I've been modeled. So I'm actively trying to transcend that lineage and heal that lineage of like finding my own healthy masculine, calling in the healthy masculine, feeling held and really feeling what it's like to be in my feminine. And so that to me feels like because the thing is, like, I'm really good at a lot of things. I'm a really good CEO. I'm a really good teacher. I'm a really good mom. I'm a really, you know, and so if I'm going to surrender, someone has to be better than me at the thing.
I had a mentor tell me once, if you can find someone who can do it 70% as well as you, hire them. That's a win, because the net positive gain on that 30% is massive if you are actually able to take all of that off your plate and point your 100% somewhere else.
Yeah.
70% is a win.
Oof, 70 hurts a little.
I know.
I feel like I could do 80, but 70 hurts.
That's what he said is successful.
I mean, it's good. That's a good piece of advice.
So then now the second question is about developing that 100% certainty offer, and the difference in your body when you walk through the world with 100% certainty. So mine was always coaching, one-on-one coaching. And that's been a major part of my revenue stream for 11, 12 years now, because I know that the right person being my client, their life is going to change, right? Where is your 100% certainty? What is the thing that you walk through the world going with 100% certainty? The right person coming into, whether it's Ziva Meditation, Ziva Magic, like there's something that you do with 100% certainty that you can change someone's life.
It's so interesting because, like, I would say any of the modalities I will get behind 1,000,000%. Ziva Live, teaching Ziva Meditation live online, Ziva Magic, our retreats. Like, I stand behind them and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt, you get in that room, your life is going to be better for the rest of your life. You're going to have tools to take with you for the rest of your life. And I have 50,000 data points to prove that. And I have a whole person on my team, their full-time job is handling testimonials, organizing them of like how much these modalities have changed people's lives. So that I feel great about. As you're saying this, I can feel like I have shakiness around the pricing. Like, we're currently in the process of pricing Ziva Magic. Yeah. And with Ziva Online, it's like absurd. Like, what people get for $399, better sleep, better sex, reversing your body age, increasing your neuroplasticity, improving your immune system, increasing your creativity. Like, it's wild. If there was a pill that you could take to do this, like, people would pay thousands and thousands, and it's for the rest of your life. And yet, because people price compare meditation to free, it's like what the people don't understand. Like, they think, oh, well, I'll just get this free app and someone will guide me through. And I don't want to sit still. So that's the challenge, is getting people to understand the profundity of this healing. But I stand behind the offer 1,000,000%. So this is a good question for me. I feel like I need to sit with it, because any of the offers, I'm there. Yeah. But the pricing is trickier.
And in this world of saturated online programs and courses, it's also changing and shifting.
Right. Like, I can
5 years ago, you could sell things online so much easier.
And I was the world's first online meditation training. So it was like, there was no competition. And now literally everyone that was like, oh, I was in pharmaceutical sales, or I used to be a tech entrepreneur, they're all online wellness teachers now. And so it's just a different game.
A lot of people don't even know that I coach, because I got paid $1 million to coach someone for a one-on-one coaching contract. Cool. And I hit this milestone and I went, I don't want to be seen as a coach. And instead of like leaning in, I leaned out. And now so many people have no idea that's even something that I do.
I didn't know.
Yeah. Like, people close to me have no idea that I even coach. So I get pricing, but also positioning. It's just like a whole game in and of itself. So going into the third question, which ties in here, which is about crafting signature content. So basically, most of us start in a place where people meet us in person and they go, wow, they're drawn to a magnetism in person. To scale, you need to be able to reach the person halfway around the world that you may never meet actually in person, and still with your content that carries the essence of you. And I'm curious, when it comes to creating content with what you've built, how do you bring your essence to it? What is your relationship to content creation and being effective in an online world?
Yeah, the thing that I love the most, the thing I'm always is asking my team to do is like take clips of me on stage and then like splice that with B-roll or combine that with the offer, because that's when I feel the most alive, the most channel open. That's when it feels the most like electric. Mm-hmm. And I feel less so, that's not true. When I'm teaching to camera, it's amazing because like I can feel, I'm like, oh, I am communicating a healing modality through the lens. And I think that the acting background helps with that, because you can take the bigness of the idea, but you have the skills to fit it through the smallness of the lens. So with teaching, it's just about helping the person. When it's marketing or social media, I think I still have a level of resistance because there's a level of judgment around it. Like social media is like fluffy or something. And that might be my age. Like now kids, the social media just is life. You know, there wasn't really social media until after I graduated from college. So there's still a piece of me that judges it as like fluffy or not worth my time. So I don't really take it as seriously as, I mean, this is how most people are communicating with me is through social media. So I think there's an internal shift as I'm saying this, that I want to like reclaim it as like, this is the primary medium now. So like treat it with the respect that it deserves.
And so then that goes into our fourth question out of 5, which is about creating real depth with your audience. And to build what you've built, there are people who really, and to like have a $20,000, $25,000 mastermind that sells out so quickly, people feel depth with you. They feel connection to you. For people who are listening to this that want to create that, what has been the way in which you've really been able to create that kind of depth with your audience?
I think it's just the depth of yourself. Like, how deep is your spiritual practice? How deep is the work that you have done on yourself? And that will translate into whatever your offering is. But if you have not done that work, if you have not gone to those places, then the depth just isn't there. And so I think you can't fake that. I think you have to just do the work on yourself.
I love that answer. Thank you. And final question here. The final module is about building your monetization ecosystem, which we've been talking actually a lot about. And this is the funnel. This is the team. This are the systems. Has that come easy to you? Did you have a natural proclivity towards it? For people who are at the earlier stages, what do you wish you had known when it came to actually building the business structures and ecosystems?
I do think I have a natural talent for it. I think I have an entrepreneurial instinct. I think I enjoy it. Like, I found the artistry in the entrepreneurship at an early, like right out of the gate. I was like, oh, this is creative. Like building this company, hiring these teams, these funnels, these emails, these web pages, like this is creative too. I can make it art too. And the thing that I wish that I had known is I think I've had a sense of like, oh, I need to protect it. It needs to be mine. It needs to be like my transmission. It needs to be my company. And I think where I am now, I wish I had like brought on at least one other person that had skin in the game, like given some percentage of equity or some sort of a profit share, to had a really smart, really amazing, that's kind of what I'm looking for now, like an entrepreneur who's like, oh, I want to grow I want to 10x this business because we're going to help more people. We're going to make more meditators on the planet. Everybody's going to make more money. And then I get to be more doing the things that light me up and more in my flow. But I have someone else who's equally or almost as equally invested as I am, who's like holding down the fort, who's better than me at the things that I don't want to be doing.
And would you have known would you have really wanted that early on? Or would you advise people to learn those? Because like you're sitting here saying, I don't want to be doing those things, but you only know that because you've had to do them and you've learned them and you've gotten good at them or capable at them. And now you're going, I don't want to do it anymore. So for these early stage entrepreneurs, should they do it all?
I think there is value in like, yeah, build that first website, write those emails, make those funnels, like make those ads, figure out the attribution. Like there is value in like at least touching every piece to some degree, especially now. Like you do not have to be a coder to build a website. You do not have to be like a data scientist to do online ad attribution. Like technology has made it honestly like pretty easy.
Yeah.
So there it is, you are capable now, especially with AI, to at least touch every portion of it so that when you're hiring someone, you have empathy and compassion for what it is that they're doing, and you can train them on how you see this job doing. But like, for example, like I'm not a coder or developer and I have a full-time developer. So I didn't do that with her or for her, you know? So there are jobs that I just had to surrender and be like, you do it because I can't even touch this.
Right.
But for the things that you can, I do think there's value in at least doing it one time.
And so is there anything else around creativity, the creative process, the creative path, that you feel that you just want to add as we wrap up here? Because you've built something, multiple 7-figure business. You've done it in a way that has honored your uniqueness and is also like you are being very open about launching something new that is requiring you to step into this and the challenges around that. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing all that. Is there anything else that you want to leave the listeners with?
Well, the thing that I wanted to talk about is just the acting piece.
Yeah.
Because I also came from a very traditional acting background where it was like learn the lines, analyze it, memorize your lines, so much technique, especially as a dancer and a singer. You know, there's so much discipline and structure and choreography in such a container. And then when I met Anthony Meindl, who was Anthony Meindl's actor workshop, I studied with him and then started teaching for him and then opened up this school in New York. And the analogy that I used is that I was really good at packing my parachute. The technique gave me the ability to pack a really great parachute. But it wasn't until I learned this other style of acting, which was just about presence. You weren't allowed to memorize the scripts. Like when we were in rehearsals or in class even, like performing, you had your script in hand. You were not allowed to memorize it. And it forced this sense of presence, this sense of terror of like, I don't know what the next line is. We would actually cover up the actor's lines.
That's what we did in ours too, yeah.
Yeah, where it's like you had to listen. You had to just be present, hear what the other actor was saying to you, see what happens in your body organically, respond to it, and then you could get your next line. Yeah. So I felt like that style of acting taught me how to jump out of the plane. And it's like nobody cares how beautiful your parachute is if you don't jump out of the plane. And it really does require the simultaneity of packing the parachute and being brave enough to surrender, which is the masculine and the feminine, right? Like prepare, have the container, make the slides. But then when you're on stage, you have to let go because that's going to be where the magic happens. That is where nature can come in and use you as a vessel. If all of it is coming from your left brain that is memorized, there is no space for magic. And I think that the way that we create and the discipline that creates the freedom to let go in our creative lives is also the same artistry and simultaneity that can happen when we're living our lives, right? That yes, you want to prepare, yes, you want to design, yes, you want to manifest, but then we want to make space for magic and we improv with what is showing up in real time.
I love that and very much agree with everything you just said. Thank you so much for being on here. Why don't you tell everybody where they can find out more about you and stay in contact, Ziva, all of it.
Yeah. So if we didn't talk too much about meditation, but if people, there's a whole masterclass that goes into the science and the neuroscience of why this style of meditation is so powerful at improving your sleep and improving your sex and improving your creativity. So you can go to zivameditation.com/podcast. And there's a free masterclass they can watch there. So it's Ziva is ZIVA meditation.com/podcast. And that masterclass is really great. Also, I'm on Instagram at Ziva Meditation, and we're birthing something new in October. I don't know when this is going to come out, but it's called Ziva Magic. And I'm really, really, really excited about this. Like, I think it's going to change the game in a lot of ways. And those are it.
That's it. Fam, I appreciate you walking the creative path with us today, and make sure that you check out Emily and all the magic that she is birthing. As you can hear, you have such a wonderful blend of the artist and entrepreneur, which is so present for me right now. So thank you for coming on. I've learned so much. Fam, if you've gained something valuable of this, please make sure that you share it out. hit the like, subscribe, leave a rating, and tag us online with one of my favorite things is just tag us and let us know what you learned. What was your big takeaway? Because that's great feedback for us, and gives us a chance to learn and grow as well. So I want to remind you that always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. Have a blessed rest of your day.
Amen.
Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you taking the time. If you are interested in building a life that you love through the 3 pillars of relationship, business, and creativity, then I encourage you to continue checking out more of my content, including this video, which I really think that you will like.